So welcome to my site, everybody. My name is Paul Swingers. I'm a real estate agent in the beautiful state of Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. And one of my passions is rural living. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal experience and how I've saved a lot of money over the years and a whole lot of stress by living in rural areas. I once lived near this farm out here in central Pennsylvania where the Amish country is. They have a lot of lessons for us who want to live out in the homestead life. And there's many beautiful videos about their lifestyle on the internet. You can look at them. But I actually had a ride in a buggy one time, and I was amazed how some of them are very, very wealthy because they have these massive spreads with huge farms like this, maybe 100 or 200 acres, and it's been going on for a long, long time, and they don't have any mortgage. So there's a lot to learn. All around the world, I've traveled quite a bit, and I've seen many places in the world where they live totally small places compared to us. I mean, I'm shocked actually some of the small places I've heard about, like in Japan and so on. You come here to America and boy, especially you drive around where I live and everywhere I look it's just a beautiful scenery and pastoral landscape and hardly anybody living there. So one of the things that I had to do when I was young, I had to save money when my kids were young. I had responsibilities and I got divorced after a while and I had a single dad kind of thing, and I had to entertain them and live someplace cheap. So I rented a room actually near this place out in Pennsylvania. It was a room on a 40-acre barn, homestead, where she had about 9 Pasofino horses. Now she wasn't Amish herself, but she had been in that locale for a long time, and she was very friendly with many of the Amish people, and she had a beautiful, beautiful spread there. I mean, I just had a room rental there, basically, but I had the use of the kitchen and everything, and man, we had a fantastic view. So I had to do things like that to save money. Now, I have children, a couple of them, the boys, or older ones, they've struggled with the possibility of trying to afford some place to live. And I've known people who really struggle with that. So this is what I can suggest to you. First of all, I'll go through a little list here of some things that make a big difference in your lifestyle choice. And I'll start with something simple. Simplicity. When we look for our housing, a lot of times I walk around these big developments and drive through and I see these massive, massive houses. And sometimes I go in there for an open house or something and I'm really not impressed. Actually, with the quality, it's just a lot more what you see at Lowe's and so on. So when you think of the cost of your living, the cost of housing in particular, start simple. Get something low maintenance, easy to take care of. Don't overdo it. You can add on to home sometimes later, or you can move to a different home. You get some good equity, but don't overdo it when you first buy a house. And especially if you want to save money, go out into rural areas, which is my specialty. So let's go through this list here a little bit. Again, low maintenance. The type of house that you select to live on, the kind of property that you live on, will make a big difference in your daily, monthly outlay of money to get things done. If you need to have the driveway done, or the gardens trimmed, or the shrubs trimmed, or the gutters done, all that kind of stuff, it's going to cost you some money. So I suggest 3 letters, DIY, do it yourself. There are many, many things on a property that you can do, you and your friends, that aren't very complicated really. It just requires maybe a screwdriver, a hammer, some tools, some basic things, maybe a measuring tape and leveling stuff. And I've learned so many things over the years. That's how I've saved tons and tons of money over the years, frankly, because I learned early on when I had a car a long, long time ago around college age, like, well, it costs a lot of money to get this thing fixed, so I better learn something. And they were pretty simple back then, so that's what we did. A lot of us, the guys, we learned how to fix our cars. And then we got into motorcycles, the same thing. Hey, you know, they're pretty simple. And I've had a lot of small bikes and motor scooters, not anything really big, but I like them. And you can learn how to take care of them, and they don't cost you much money. Same way with your vehicles. Now, when it comes to housing, and that's what we're talking about now, there's a lot of less stress out in the countryside. And that sounds simple to say, but when I had an ex-wife, she passed away years ago, but she had a practice in New York City, and I went there many, many times. And her health suffered. She passed away a couple of years ago. Her health suffered because of the work that she did and all the stress going in the city. Yeah, I got paid good money, but the cost of it was a lot of extra stress. And I have been able to have a very healthy lifestyle. I'm 73 years old. I can still do all kinds of stuff. And I do. And I have tools. And that's another thing I want to get into here. Getting the right tools and equipment to maintain your property. If you can save a plumber by your knowledge, or if you can save somebody to do your deck, you do it yourself, that's thousands of dollars. So think about that when you buy a property. How difficult is it to maintain? And is there something that I can do on a regular basis to enhance the property? And some of my other videos talk about various things you can put on a property, like gazebos and porches and things like that, fenced in or screened in porches. So doing yourself a favor by learning all the things that you can learn about the septic system, learn about the wells, learn about the furnace that you happen to have, the heating system, and just get educated. And if you need to learn something, there's always YouTube, and that's where I go. So pets and children. I have seen people who had a really nice outdoor type of dog and they lived in a city. And I really felt sorry for that dog because every day, all day long, oh, when are we going to go for a walk? When are we going to go for a walk? And these are the kind of dogs that love to romp and play and run and run and run. So if you have a confined space for your pets and they're always got to watch out and you better not let them out without a leash on and everything. Where I live right now, I have some outdoor cats. I've always had an outdoor cat for quite a long time. The one I have now goes in and out and he likes to play during the day and go home at night. But your pets can be free to play, and your children, and that's incredibly less stressful. I've known people who had children, young children, they live in a condominium, and everywhere they got to watch out for that person every day, keep an eye on them all the time, teach them how to use the locks, and it's not fun. And your dogs or your children are just going to be wishing one day they can go out and play. So time savings, oh my goodness. A lot of times nowadays it's so easy to work from home. I've done it for 30 years. I've always had a home office of some kind. You can too. You can do all kinds of business. You do a side hustle. You can have an extra structure on your property where you can use for your hobby or your side business and so on. So there's a lot of that to be said about just generally saving a lot of time. And then I mentioned health already. I frankly, that's one of the best things about living out in a rural area. You can save so much stress. And it's a very different kind of life. You have to learn to be a little bit more self-reliant and get to know your neighbors a little bit and things like that. But I encourage people to discuss the ways amongst themselves, if it's a family, how are we going to save money? And living in a rural area is one way to have a great lifestyle at a lower cost and lower stress. And that's why I specialize in rural property. I have been to many, many cities, and that's exactly why I live where I live in the Shenandoah Valley. So I appreciate you listening, like and share. I'd love to hear comments. What is your experience living in a rural area? How did you save money? One of the ways we do it is we have some little extra thing that's maybe brings in like $1,000 a year. So what? That's $1,000, pays your electric bill, so on. So like and share, please. And again, if you have any links that you'd like me to look at, I'd love to see them. Thanks again.